A bleve is a boiling, liquid, expanding vapour explosion. Now this normally applies to incidents involving, for example, LPG cylinders, and it is a sudden release of vapour containing liquid droplets due to the failure of the vessel. And the major consequences of a bleve are you get thermal radiation from the fireball, fragments from the vessel causing damage, and a blast wave produced by the expanding vapour liquid. A propane cylinder, basically a 15 metre diameter sphere, can cause damage to 4.5 kilometres away. Now this video is going to explain what a bleve is. So this video now.
When a tank is exposed to sustained heat, such as from a fire, the liquid within the tank is forced to boil or vaporize, resulting in increased pressure in the tank. To prevent overstressing the tank, the relief device activates, venting the excess pressure. As pressure decreases in the tank, the valve begins to close. With continued heating, pressure again builds, causing the relief valve to reopen. Where flames impinge on the tank below the liquid level, the liquid absorbs the heat, allowing the tank metal to remain at a safe temperature. With continued relief valve operation, the liquid level drops, exposing a greater area of the tank to the effects of heating. With the flames impinging on the vapor space of the tank, the temperature of the tank metal, uncooled by liquid, rises. At some point, due to the vapor pressure from within, the tank metal begins to weaken, stretch, and eventually tear. As the tank comes apart, large quantities of both liquid and vapor are released in a powerful explosion. The heat radiated is sufficient to ignite combustibles and cause burns great distances from the explosion. Tank sections containing rapidly igniting fuel can become flying missiles, traveling great distances, causing secondary fires and other damage. It all happens quickly and with little warning.
That video explained what a bleve was, so don't forget, it's critically, the cylinder is heated, reaches its critical temperature, and eventually it gives way and you cause a bleve, a boiling liquid expanding vapour explosion. Now a good example of a bleve is an incident which occurred in Mexico City in 1984. It happened at 05:35 on the 19th of November, and it was a major fire, and a series of catastrophic explosions occurred at a Pemex LPG terminal. Now 500 people were killed by this, and the terminal was completely destroyed. Now what was happening was 3 refineries served this facility with LPG on a daily basis, and the plant was being filled from 400 kilometres away with LPG. The inventory was large. They had 2 large spheres and 48 cylindrical vessels, and they were generally filled to 90% capacity, and they had 4 smaller spheres to 50%. Basically, they had a large inventory of LPG. Now, a pressure drop was noticed in the system. What does a pressure drop indicate? A leak. So why didn't they shut it down? An 8-inch pipe had ruptured. Pressure drop had gone. The operators could not identify where the leak was. They were frantically trying to find out where the leak was. There's a leak somewhere, shut it down. They didn't shut down the plant because they were told not to shut down the plant. And it leaked for 5 to 10 minutes. And it created a gas cloud 200 metres by 150 metres by 2 metres. That's the size of the gas cloud. Now this gas cloud travelled away and it reached a flare stack and it went up. This caused a bleve back at the cylinder. Well, that sent out the fragments which caused more bleves. And I think it was overall, for 1.5 hours, more bleves occurred. And the LPG, the problem is LPG, propane and butane, the critical temperature of propane is 96 degrees, butane's 152. When it reaches these temperatures, it goes back from a liquid state to a gas, and that's what causes a bleve, and it blows up. The problem is it needs heat to expand. And the problem is there was so much LPG, when it exploded, it was actually pouring down on the people in the town because it didn't have time to turn to a gas. So it was actually liquid petroleum gas droplets that was falling on the town in liquid form. The total destruction occurred due to a total failure of overall safety, which included the plant layout. The vessels weren't laid out in a good way to resist the explosion. Isolation, there was no emergency isolation means. The terminal fire water system was disabled in the initial blast, so that was taken out straight away. The water spray system was inadequate, to cool the other vessels, because that's what they wanted to do, is cool the other vessels. Active, passive fire systems were no good. The installation of a more effective gas detection and emergency isolation system could have averted this. In other words, if you got the detection in a certain area, detect it immediately, shutting it down. Not having to rely on an operator, it should have been automatic shut-off. The plant had no gas detection system, and therefore when the isolation was operated, it was too late. Basically, they left it 5 to 10 minutes. The emergency services could not gain access due to all the residents in the town were evacuating and the fire brigade couldn't get in.